Welcome to the Messy Success Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Henson, coming at you with episode 66. I have an amazing and very special to my heart guest today. Tatiana Hill is joining us, and she was also on the podcast in episode 16. So she's back again, 2.5 and some change years later. Her boutique, Teal Boutique, is absolutely one of my favorites. I'm going to link up everything that you need in the show notes today at elizabethhenson.co/E66. But Tatiana is here for a really important and meaningful conversation. She's going to be sharing with us how her business didn't just survive, but thrive during the pandemic. But she was also going through a separation and divorce behind the scenes and not sharing it on social media. So, can you imagine, like the pandemic, she goes off on her own. And now this business, it's kind of fight or flight. And she's really sharing with us how she did all of it, what it was like, what it felt like from the inside out, why she chose to share some parts and not others, and what that looks like. And this is just a really, really inspiring conversation, not just for business owners, but for women, for parents, for anyone who's married or not married or divorced or whatever it might be. You guys are going to absolutely love hearing from Tat. She's an incredible leader, and I just adore her and her boutique. And this just feels so full circle. She was my third bride ever back in 2013, I believe. When I first started my business, she actually trusted me to shoot her wedding as a first-year photographer. And now she's trusting me to hold this space for this episode. And I'm just so honored to call her a friend. And I hope you guys will enjoy, and I hope you guys will reach out to her and let her know how meaningful this conversation is, because I know it's not easy. And I'm just so excited to have her here with me today and to have this super important conversation. All right, let's get to it. All right, welcome, Tat. I am so excited to have you back on the podcast. Like, it's hard to believe it's been almost 2 years, I think, and so much has happened in your life and in your business. So this is going to be like part two, 2 years later. I can't wait.
I know. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited. And like I had just told you before we hit record, a little nervous, but I'm so happy to be here.
But being nervous just means that you're growing. It means you're doing something, uncomfortable. You're navigating new territory. So that's totally fine. We're going to keep it light and easy. And I'm just really excited and so freaking honored that, you felt like this would be a safe enough space for you to share this journey. And, we both interact with so many strong, independent women who either have businesses or maybe they just have big goals, who are ambitious. I mean, that's kind of the tribes that we navigate towards. So I know that this is going to help so many people. So even if it feels uncomfortable, I know that it's just going to be so beneficial.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. I definitely have learned recently that opening up and speaking a little bit more about everything that I've gone through over the past year, it's created so many relationships for me with people. I've received so many messages and things. So that's kind of why I had talked to you about maybe going on the podcast and really opening up a little bit more and just creating that safe space with people.
Yeah. And, just to give people a little bit of context, like, I was on my friend Sharon's podcast called Breaking Joy, and I opened up there in a completely kind of like different way than I tend to open up on, the business and social media side of things. And I remember you reached out to me after that, and that was just so meaningful. And it meant so much to me that you were willing to kind of just reach out and be like, hey, I heard this and I can relate, and like, let's go hang out. And I feel like you and I have kind of had a connection. We already had a connection, but even more since then. So that's kind of the power in, sharing our stories.
Oh, for sure. And just kind of building community within each other, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. So let's dive in. First of all, I think the last time you were on the podcast, your business was still online. And since then, you have opened an actual storefront boutique, the Teal Eagle Boutique, which is freaking amazing. And then you've also rocked out the online community. So you've been very busy. You hit 100K in sales recently. I was like literally throwing confetti for you. Like, so just to set the stage, like, you're a badass and you were
Oh,
going through some stuff while you were building this business.
I love you. Thank you so much. Was it really online when I came on? I was trying to think about the last time I came on and where I was with the Teal Eagle, but yeah, we started out online in 2017 and I opened the store at the end of 2018, and it has been a journey for sure. And we are in just a really great growth phase of just continuing to build and plant roots in the community. And I'm so thrilled about that. We just actually put a mural on the building, which is really exciting. So yeah, a lot has changed since I've been on here the first time.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to go see. I feel like I saw you posted a picture where you could kind of see it in the background. And I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love it. I can't wait to actually go see it in person, the new mural."
And I think like when you start a business, I know for me it was like, all right, well, we're just going to try it, right? Like I'm just going to dive in and see what happens and go from there. And so to commit to something like a mural is really committing to being there for an indefinite period of time. So that's really symbolic for me. It's like, all right, we're here. We've been doing it and we're going to continue to do this thing. We're going to stay around for a while.
I love that. That kind of gave me goosebumps because honestly, I didn't even really think about what that would feel like to commit to something like that because I'm sure, a mural is an investment on top of that. And then, yeah, it's like you're trademarking the building almost.
Yeah, I know. I had to do a little wheeling and dealing because I don't actually own the building, and I was like, I promise, just trust me, it's going to be so pretty. So, I was actually just texting with the landlord before I got on the phone, and it's just has exceeded both of our expectations. So we're very excited about it.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I know from what I could see on the pictures, it was like so pretty and tasteful and not like an in your face kind of mural.
Yeah, and so I'm just going to kind of dive right in. The mural is real symbolic, like I said, because we are making the decision. I made the decision to commit to being there. And if you rewind a year ago, we were really like in the depth of this pandemic, and I had no idea what was going to happen to my business with the world shutting down, essentially. So to see that come full circle a year later, it does. It like kind of makes me tear up a little bit.
Oh my gosh. And how would you say, like in general, that you guys did from during the pandemic? Because I know, like as a customer, like I gotta be like in the top customers, I think. Like it looked like you didn't skip a beat, and I know for me, it felt like a place that I could go to as a distraction from the pandemic, not even just in person, but, like, seeing you share the clothes online, like, it felt like a piece of normalcy for me, and definitely, like, when I was looking to get out of the house, it was one of those places that I knew I could go and feel normal and look at clothes, and, like, anytime I have a trip, that is always where I go to buy my clothes for my trip.
Aw.
So for me as a customer, it felt super strong and stable and normal. But what did it feel like for you?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we heard that from quite a few people. They would kind of, whether it was stopping into the store real quick for 20 minutes or popping on one of our Wednesday night sales or whatever, that was something that they knew they could have that felt normal, that was pre-pandemic. And we really tried to stay as normal as possible on our schedule, and we did adjust our hours. During the pandemic, and that meant for us to be real precise with what we needed to do in that short time frame. We went from having a 9-hour day to a 4-hour day. We were open from 12 to 4, and it was like, okay, what can we get done in these 4 hours as effectively as possible? And then yeah, it really was getting smarter with how I operated my business, getting smarter with how I bought product, and really adapting to make things easier for our customers. One of the things that stood out that we still do now was we started bundling things for people, especially around the holidays and stuff. And we were creating Easter bundles or Mother's Day bundles or just like little summer bundles to make the shopping really easy for people. And that's something that we created during the pandemic that we've actually kept through. We just did some last week. Like we were like, this was amazing, and people loved it. So really, for us, it was for me, it was really stressful and I never knew what was going to happen, but it was just trying to get as creative and effective as possible with, the hours that we were working with.
I love that. And you did such a good job of like having an online community and an online audience before you even took the store in person that, so many of us even though we're local, I know that like the online community is kind of what just keeps Teal Eagle top of mind. I mean, obviously we're friends and we're Instagram friends and Facebook friends, but like just when I'm scrolling through my newsfeed and I see the outfits or my friends who are also in your community are like tagging me when they see something that looks like something that I would love, like, I feel like that would make a huge difference during the pandemic of just having, the customer support and the people who are just, like, here for it.
100%. I do think online retail, it flourished in general compared to a lot of small businesses. So we are really grateful for that. And then I don't know why or how I have been so lucky to have this community that does exactly what you just said. They tag each other, they share their stories, they share outfits, they'll tag somebody and be like, I think this will look great on you, and they provide feedback to one another about sizes, and you know they make up the Teal Eagle 100%. I'm really good at going to buy the clothes. I love going to market. I have a good eye for it, but it's the community that really makes the store and makes that online presence so much of what it is. And
Oh
I'm
my
really
gosh.
grateful for that.
Well, and you're so good at trying the clothes on and sharing, and I don't think I realized, like, how much of a skill that actually is until I've seen, like, a couple of people, like, they're doing it, and I'm like, "Hmm, there's just, like, a couple people are, like, experimenting with it in their Instagram stories and, like, outfit of the day," and I'm like, "There's just, like, this authentic connection that you have when you do it that, like, we actually feel like we're friends in the dressing room with you," as cheesy as that sounds.
I really appreciate it because, well, when I first started doing those little videos, it was so nerve wracking. And now I don't re record anything. And you guys will see my bloopers all the time. I'm like, man, I don't know why I said that. And like, we just keep going. And I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. Like, they know me now at this point that anything I say, whether it's funny or I get tongue tied, there's a lot of times I'm like, oh, I can't speak today. And I just keep on rolling with the video. And I really want people to be able to see that side of things. We're not structured. We are the definition of messy success. I can promise you that. And so to just put that into those videos is extremely important to me.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And it's just like done is better than perfect. And how much more efficient is it with our time if we don't worry about the perfection in the re recording? Because this podcast, it's so funny that you say that. It's kind of had the same journey where the first couple episodes, like I was editing out everything. Like, oh my gosh, I cleared my throat, or there was a long pause, or I stuttered here. And now, like, I barely edit the episodes at all. Like, Gracie's walked in the middle of an episode and I just rolled with it. Like, it's fine.
But I love that. And I think it goes back to authenticity, and it helps people connect with you and feel like they're there and that they're a part of something. And also, it gives us all permission to not be perfect, to let down those expectations, right? And going back to the videos, like I'll record funny videos and laugh and stuff. And as my girls who work at the store start to do the videos, you see them sort of drop the expectations of having to be perfect too after a while. And so we laugh all the time. And we said we're going to create like a blooper reel for our customers one day because we save all the really funny ones that we actually can't post. And
Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, yes.
we're gonna create a blooper reel one day of all of our little like flubbers and stuff.
Oh my gosh, I bet it's gonna be so funny because I just like I know how you guys are and your personalities, and like I feel like I rarely see you in there when I'm shopping, but your team, your girls do such a good job. Like it doesn't matter if they're like, 18 or 25 or my age. I feel completely comfortable being like an almost 40-year-old shopping in there.
I love that. Thank you. I'm really proud of the staff that we have in there, and the heart that these girls put into a store, that they don't own, but they act like they do. And I am just so grateful for that. And I laugh because a lot of people say they never see me in there, and most of the time I'm upstairs, but recently I've been taking some personal time off. So recently I haven't been in there, but It always makes me laugh. I'm like, I swear I'm upstairs. Just call my name. I'll come down.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And you've been traveling a lot. So, do you wanna tell us anything about, like, you've been traveling? Was this for work? Was this for pleasure? Was this,
I
like,
know.
emotional healing?
I know that I try to keep the travel talk a little on the DL just because of COVID and stuff. But yeah, I've done a little bit of traveling over the past year, a little bit of work. I really value that in person market traveling. I just think it's um, amazing compared to internet shopping. I love to be able to touch and feel the clothing and really see it in person, and I love to connect with my vendors and just build those relationships. So that type of travel is extremely important to me, and I'm really grateful to have been able to still continue to do that over the past year. And I did do a little bit of soul searching travel. I went on a solo I guess a solo hike is what I've been calling it. I basically signed up to go on a group travel experience, but I went alone, and so it was myself and 10 other people. And we went hiking in Bryce Canyon and Zion National Park. And it was a really scary, but really cool experience.
Oh my gosh. So, you basically signed up to go on this trip with 10 people that you had never met.
Yep, 10 strangers.
Oh my god. Were you, like, best friends by the time you left?
I made a couple really good friends. Yeah, I'm excited about it. We're obviously you connect on Instagram and stuff, and you hopefully get to hang out in the future or plan trips or do something. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That, like, really, really gave me an urge to do something like that because 'cause I've just been telling Mark and my family, like, how freaking, like, my fun cup is so low right now because of the pandemic. I mean, I love working, working's fun for me, but I mean, like, my actual, like, extroverting time.
Yeah, it was one of the scariest things I've done, like I said, and it was on two or three of my vision boards this year. I had done a couple vision boards, and I had really been thinking about this trip, and I almost didn't go. And then I signed up like a week before the trip. I made like a last minute decision a week before the trip and just made it happen. And it's so important to take that time for ourselves, especially when we are navigating businesses that require your full attention and children that require your full attention and relationships that require your full attention. It's really easy to let the things that make you you go. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things I'm working on this year is kind of getting back to myself.
I love that. Okay, so let's dive in. So right before the episode, I noticed on Instagram you kind of like dropped the ball as like what we were going to talk about. And so you in 2020 along with the pandemic, along with building this business, like we're going through a separation and you didn't tell anybody as far as on social media. So what was that like and like now you're ready to talk
Yeah,
about it.
I know. Yeah, so we had made a difficult decision to end our marriage and separate. Well, separate and kind of decide if we were going to end the marriage back in January of 2020. So it was kind of pre-pandemic. And I'll be really honest with you, Liz. I'm not sure if I would have done it if I would have known, like in that moment, if I would have known that the pandemic was happening, because I had a lot of fear after the fact and kind of like, did I make the right choice? And the idea of me losing everything because of the pandemic. And that's been something that I've been reflecting on a lot over the past year. So the way the universe works out is really interesting. We made the decision to live separately pre-pandemic, and then within a few weeks the whole world shut down. And I had this little winter rental apartment, and I was sitting in this apartment like, okay, like I'm on my own. I'm financially responsible for myself. I have this business I need to keep alive. I have children I need to make sure are like emotionally strong, safe, and protected. And I kind of compartmentalized and put all of my own needs like in a box, and I just closed it. And I think maybe that's why I didn't speak on anything for so long, is because I really didn't deal with anything for so long. I was like narrow focused on what my main priorities were in that moment. And really healing myself wasn't one of those priorities.
Wow, so it was like a survival mechanism almost
Yeah.
to just put it away and focus on your kids and, your business and then of course like basic human needs.
Yeah, 100%. And we were like navigating new schedules and obviously so much of the virtual homeschooling. And I mean, I laugh about the virtual schooling because I had to let those expectations go real quickly. The turning things on time, or if we missed a Zoom, I was like, listen, in our level of priorities, like this is whew, we're gonna get you all the schoolwork done that you need to do, but I cannot stress about the things I can't control here. So yeah, it was really, really stressful and really scary. And I got to tell you, I'm really proud of myself.
Oh, I love that. Like to be able to look back and be like, I did some really, really hard stuff. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And like I said, there were many times over the past year where I was really fearful for my business and then just really fearful for my own personal future, and I had to ask myself, like, did I make the right choice? Like, should I have stayed even though I knew that it wasn't a healthy dynamic? And I think when you make a choice based on what you know to be true in your heart, it can't be the wrong choice, right? Like you're gonna figure it out because you're coming from the right place deep within inside you. And I think if I would have stayed, it wouldn't have been coming from the right place. It would have been coming from fear. It would have been coming from scarcity mentality and um, trying to survive the pandemic. Like I could have come up with 100 excuses as to why it wasn't the right time, but deep inside my heart, I just knew that it was.
Yeah, we've talked about that, how you just kind of knew without even being able to verbalize or articulate exactly what it is. And I think that that's so important. Like that's our intuition, speaking to us. And if you had waited and say the pandemic, you decided, to wait ultimately to separate or to go off on your own, you would have been allowing fear, to be your advisor and to dictate your decision making. And, looking back, it's like you didn't allow fear to dictate your decision making. And that's so important for us to do, even when it's really, really hard.
Well, and my relationship with fear, I mean, is such a complex relationship because I have allowed fear to navigate many of my decisions, so many of them for so long. And that's where that live fearlessly mentality I even have tattooed on my arm came from. And it was kind of the day that I decided to stop letting my decisions be based off of fear. And I always say, like, fear is healthy. I think if it's there, it means that there's a level of importance to what you're about to do. But I think it was Brene Brown who has some sort of talk about how like fear gets to ride in the car, but it doesn't ever get to drive the car. And I've always held on to that. Like fear gets to be in the car, it can sit in the back seat, but you do not get to drive. I get to drive on this journey. So I've always really held on to that. And yeah, I think I decided to do something because I knew that it was the right decision. And it was scary, but it was what was necessary for my personal situation.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, I love that quote about the car. And when we feel that fear, it's because we're learning something new, we're doing something uncomfortable, but that is all it's an opportunity to grow, right? And so much of this is like our internal narrative. And instead of saying like this is scary, I can't do it, or this is scary, it's going to cause X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, this is an opportunity for growth and like I can do hard things and I will drive the car, not fear. I love that. And, I think just hearing you say how you were doing a lot of different scary things, a lot of women that I work with who have primarily online businesses, you know, or even service-based industry businesses that don't have to have, a storefront, like it's so easy for us to kind of take for granted like the expenses that we don't have. And like, oh, I can't, this is too expensive, that's too expensive. And I'm like, what if you were a brick and mortar, right? Or what if you had, $20,000 in overhead just to start your business? I can't imagine because I haven't had that, kind of overhead all at once, like the whole other layer of fear that is there when you have to actually like pay for this building to run your business and a staff, like you have employees, like that's so much.
Yeah, it is extremely expensive to run a business. Any business owner could attest to that. What I value the most is making sure that whatever I've committed to in terms of my staff hours, that I can meet that. So definitely making sure that they stayed paid through the entire pandemic was what definitely motivated me. Obviously, I want to make sure that I can financially support myself and my children, and then it was making sure that my staff could financially stay afloat as well. um, and there is just no, I just have a tenacity, like when I know that what is on the line is extremely important. It's not just my livelihood. At the height of the pandemic, I think I had 10 employees. We've lost a few over the past few months for graduation and things like that, but at one point it was ten people that I needed to make sure could still get their paycheck, and that was really important to me. And like I said, the tenacity and the drive to make that happen, it's just like it's like fires you up almost, that there's no other option.
Oh my gosh, yes. And like you really, really show up. Like it's just so impressive. And especially to be going through the separation and the divorce, like behind closed doors. So you said that you put it in a box. Do you feel like you've started unpacking that box? Is it still in the box? Where is all that?
Well, that's interesting because here we are about a year later, a little over a year later, and I think I really started to unpack that box in February of 2021. And I had taken my kids down on a vacation to Key Largo for, it was like 5 days, and it was just me and them. And that was really a lot more emotional for me than I expected it to be. And I really started kind of moving into that place of grieving and unpacking the box, and trying to make sense of what I was feeling emotionally. And what I've learned is grief in any capacity, whether you're grieving a relationship or the loss of a job, or the loss of anything, it comes in waves, it ebbs and flows, and you'll have really great days, really great weeks, and then for no reason you'll have a day where you're like, I just don't know why I'm crying, and then the next day you're fine. And it is such a wave. I don't think grief ever goes away. You just kind of learn how to manage it, and then the waves when they come.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, and even in relationships, there's emotional ups and downs and insecurities. Like I can't imagine, like what that actually feels like. Like no matter how many times you've experienced like heartbreak or breakups, like there's a separation anxiety I think that comes when you've been with another human for so long and then all of a sudden like you're just not even physically in the same space. Like that's a really interesting place to navigate, and I've only experienced it once, like, my relationship before Mark, we lived together for quite a while, but I just remember, like, that when I moved out, it was, like, a very like, I don't even know how to, like, explain it other than, like, a separation, like, you're cutting a limb off, but you know it's for your greater good, and so you can be that best version of yourself, but it's still, like, very, very difficult and emotionally, like, traumatic.
For sure. And I don't, nobody gets married with the idea that this is probably going to end in a few years, right? You get married and you have all of these hopes and these dreams, and you kind of create this idea of what it's supposed to be like for yourself and your partner and the family that you're creating. And when you have to come to terms with the fact that that is no longer going to happen, and you have to let all that go, it is like saying goodbye to a piece of your heart. You have to let that go. And that's been really hard for me, even though I know that it was the right thing, and we're still friends and we get along just fine, and we both know that it was the right thing. Letting go of everything I thought it was supposed to be has been the most challenging. But what I keep reminding myself is that letting go of all of that I know didn't work, despite how badly I wanted it to, is creating space for something new to come in. And the idea of whatever that is really exciting. And the hope that I have for that it just kind of keeps me going.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Like we tend to almost romanticize, these stories in our head of what we think life is going to be like or should be like. And it's really interesting to think about that. And when you think about manifestation and law of attraction, it's like, okay, how do we attract the future that we want, but also kind of like stay in this reality of not romanticizing something that isn't? And, I would love to hear like when you knew that in order to to grow and be the best version of yourself, that like this was a step that you needed to take. I don't know. I'd just love to hear you kind of speak about that area of like, romanticizing what you thought would be that isn't, but then also, like you said, shedding and making room for something new. What does that feel like?
That is, that's a little bit of a challenging question. I think, I mean, we did counseling for a very long time. I'm a big proponent of counseling. And I think you just kind of get to the point where you're like, okay, 4 years later, we're still having the same conversations. And as much as I wish that these conversations had evolved or changed, or, that's, we're still kind of at the bulk of the same root problems. And yeah, I don't know how to answer that other than you just kind of know deep inside of you. I just knew it was time. And I think anybody who's been there can get to that point. Like they say, when you meet the right person, you just know. And I
Hmm.
think the same is true when you know that something is over. It's just that deep knowing inside of your heart that like it's time to go. I will also say that, I love the idea of, the mom and the dad and everything staying together. And like you said, romanticizing something that isn't. But one of the big things for me, one of the main motivating factors on making the decision to separate was wanting to model healthy relationships for my children, and especially my daughter, in terms of really having her understand what a healthy marriage looks like and the way that two people should communicate with one another and treat each other. And not that I had like a destructive communication method. It just, there's a level of intimacy and love that I believe should be with a husband and wife that I think was lacking. And I really wanted my children to understand what that looked like. Because I think two people can stay married for the children and have a great friendship, but what I wanted to model for my children is that romantic side of things, and I don't have that right now, obviously. But hopefully, one day, by taking the steps to say like this isn't what I want to model, I can in the future show them what a healthy marriage looks like in that aspect. And so that was a really motivating factor to me. And ultimately, I asked myself, if this was my child in this relationship, what's the advice that I would give them? And I spoke that advice out loud. I wrote it down, and then I reread it a few times, and I thought, okay, if I want to give the advice, I have to live that advice. I have to lead by example. And that was kind of ultimately how I ended up making that decision.
I love that so much. And a lot of times, if I'm working with a student or a client and they're kind of beating themselves up, right? Or like just all these limited beliefs and negative beliefs. And I'm like, if that was your daughter or your child, like, what would you say to them in the exact same position? And it's like this huge aha moment of like, gosh, like we treat ourselves like so harshly compared to what we want for our kids, and the best way to do that for our kids is to model it for ourselves. And I think that that's so powerful. And I think anybody that's struggling in their marriage or relationships and has children can kind of relate to like, what do we want them to see, what kind of behaviors do we want to model? And even if you never get remarried, like you have modeled like this fierce independence, and that was always important to my mom, was that I could stand on my own 2 feet, right, that I could support myself without a husband. So that's like ingrained in who I am because of the conversations that she had with me. So I think that you have such a good point there, and that's definitely not something that we want to let go of just for the sake of comfort or fear.
And I don't think there's any right or wrong choice. I think it's really specific to each person's situation. And I'm a big proponent of working things out for the children if you can. But I am also a big proponent of, if you can't, then that's okay too. I think we ultimately have to do in the end what is going to make us happy as individuals. And happy parents breed happy children.
Yes, I love that. And I even think there's a correlation with like our pregnancies, right? Like how laid back we are or how stressed we are when we're pregnant. I think sometimes can like manifest into, like our kids' personality types. It might be super subtle, but like I was way more stressed when I was pregnant with Maddie, and she came out just a little bit more fiery.
Absolutely. I mean, energy, we feed off of each other's energies, whether we realize it or not. I mean, from my kids feed off my energy, my dogs feed off my energy. So I absolutely believe that 100%.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important that, we're very mindful and aware of the energy like inside our homes around our kids. I think that's so huge.
Yeah. And like I said, we've done a really good job. We didn't talk about our separation at all. I don't think either of us did really, beyond our immediate, like super, super close friends and family. And then we've really worked hard on creating normalcy for our kids in terms of schedules and holidays and birthdays, and just trying to be a team, which is extremely hard to do when you don't always agree. But we've done a really good job. So I'm very proud of us for that. And really hope that we can continue to model that for our children on what a healthy separation looks like, right? Like if this isn't a healthy union, how can we model separating healthy for them, and then hopefully the healthy relationships to follow. So that's kind of where we are right now in our journey, is showing them how to continue to try to respect each other even though we're not living together.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, and you guys are doing a really, really great job of that, and, you didn't share anything on social media, like, tell us a little bit about, what drove the decision. I know you said you didn't share because you were kind of just not dealing with it, but I think you were very much kind of, like, leading and modeling, like, a journey of healing, like, so many of us didn't know what that journey was, but it was very clear that you were, like, kinda stepping into this next phase. So I don't know. Tell us a little bit about like choosing not to share and then kind of now that you've started unpacking that box in 2021, now being ready to share, like what are your thoughts around that or what are your goals around that?
You know, I've always used social media as kind of like a diary. I think we've talked about this, like a public diary. I love the concept of vulnerability. I love conversations around vulnerability. I think if we all just kind of pull the mask down a little bit and allow ourselves to be seen, I love the relationships that come from that. But I also think that you have to be careful in how you speak on things. And for a while, I didn't speak on things just out of respect for my kid's dad. And I didn't know where he was mentally. And I really didn't know where I was mentally. And I think that it's important to process before you speak too. And so I wanted to be very careful on what I was processing and not really speaking out of turn, or jumping to conclusions, so to speak, before I said anything. So I think it was really important for me to take that time to process. And even though I packed things away over the past year, I still processed. It was just done differently because of the pandemic and the business side of things. And I did share I did share that I was going through stuff, because I know a lot of people were like, what's going on? And again, that just goes back to, I've always kind of used social media as a little bit of a diary. And if I see something that has helped me, a quote or a meme or whatever, I'm always like, well, somebody else might need to hear that too. And I've just gotten into this cycle of really sharing what's on my heart. And so that was a fine line of sharing what's on my heart, but not sharing the details. And then a couple things have changed, and it's been a little more public now. And so I thought it was maybe time to start speaking on it. I say public as if anybody cares about our lives, but you know what I mean. We've been speaking on it more and more. And so I thought it was a good time. I wanted to share my vacation in Key Largo with my children, and it was very obvious that I was there alone. And I just kind of wanted to open up that conversation. And so I've recently done so. And it has been an interesting but exciting. I know that's a weird way to describe it, but it's been really exciting for me, because I have received so many messages from friends, and I've had so many private conversations, and the fact that people are trusting me, uh, and they are coming to me and they are opening up and they are being vulnerable and they are trusting me with what's going on in their life is the biggest honor. And so I think by making that leap to speak on social media in what I hope will always be a respectful and tactful and classy way, I have allowed other people to feel safe in coming to me privately, and it would always remain private. And speak to me about things that they're going through. And especially with marital problems and divorce, there's a lot of shame that comes with that. There's a lot of feelings of failure, there's a lot of embarrassment, and there's a lot of shame, no matter how you spin it, no matter how much it was needed or how healthy the decision was to leave. It's still embarrassing. And the fact that I have so many friends who know that they're not alone is really powerful for me. And so I'm okay speaking on it more and more, because if my speaking on it helps a few other people know that they're not alone and they have no reason to feel shame and embarrassment, then I'm kind of like, okay, I'll keep talking about it.
Yeah, I love that. It kind of takes this entire experience and this purpose and makes it bigger than you, which I think is
Exactly.
that always feels good. And I love what you said about like sharing the quotes and the memes, but not sharing the details. And like, again, like this is something that comes up when we create space to have these conversations. But when you share in that way, you have the ability to help more people versus like just being super specific and venting about your specific situation. It's like we ask ourselves, like, well, who does that help? And when we share in kind of this general way, we can actually touch more people. And I think, hey, puppy wuppy.
I
I
know,
think
I'm so
about,
sorry.
oh
My
my gosh,
daughter let him out. She let him out of the room.
no, it's totally fine. We were just talking about, keeping it real, being authentic. But I think about, my students who will message me one on one and be like, I really need help with this business problem, XYZ. And I'm like, yeah, but if you ask this in front of the group or on one of our calls, you're probably not the only one that has this question. And, I think that's just what kind of came up as you were talking about sharing, but not sharing the details is actually can be a really, really good thing because then people are reading it and they can picture themselves in that situation. Whereas when we're super specific, it's really hard for people to be able to grab that helpful piece.
Well, it's just like music, right? Like that's one of the things I love about music and why it's such an important part of my life. Like an artist will write a song and they know what the meaning is behind the song, but they don't really always come out and say it. And then you get to listen to the song and you get to take those words and those lyrics and you get to relate it to your own life and create your own meaning behind that. And that's kind of where the quotes and the memes and stuff come from. It's like we can take these words, and you don't need to know the details, and then you get to take it and take what's important to you and the little pieces that mean something to you and hold on to that.
Yeah, that's so true. And like how you said, using social media as a diary, I like to think of it as like, in a way, this is our legacy. And I've had a lot of conversations with people who, they don't share about their life or they don't share about their kids. And, I do realize that as all our generation and how our kids, when they grow up, they're going to have opinions and they're going to have questions about how much we shared of their life on social media as babies and toddlers and young grown-ups. And, of course, if Gracie ever comes to me and says, Mommy, stop sharing, I will. Like, I'll always honor what they want. But what is most important to me is like, if something happened to me like tomorrow and, I've been working and so busy and, maybe not as present as I would like to be, knowing I was going to leave the planet tomorrow, but they will always have this legacy, and they'll always know like what my core values were, what kind of work I was doing in this world. And they'll be able to say, wow, my mom was working, but like, look at all the people that she was helping. And one day they'll be able to reflect on this online diary or this legacy and they'll be able to see what I was really doing. Whereas right now it just looks like mommy's always on the computer, right?
Yeah, Mom, put down your phone.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But I
Oh,
love that. They get to see the impact that you've left on the people around you. And that's important for sure. We live in a different time, right? Like we just live in a different time. And so the work is different. But the work, working virtual, working from your phone, working from your computer, it opens up so much more opportunity, right? Like I could take my kids down to Florida and work a Wednesday night sale from Florida while we're sitting there by the pool. And for me, like that's amazing. That's such a gift. So, where the social media aspect rolls into is that, yeah, I use it as a diary, and yeah, I share things about our life and whatnot. And again, I try to be respectful and tactful, but I also want my community to know the kind of person that they're supporting. And what I stand for and what I believe in, and the kind of legacy I want to leave. I want to be remembered for always helping people. And I think in order to do that, I have to be honest about who I am, and I have to allow my customers and my community to see that. And social media just makes that easy. It allows us to reach more people, and
Yeah, I love it. It really does. It's like, it's a love-hate relationship sometimes, but we do just live in a different world. And, sometimes I beat myself up like, oh, I should be reading like more actual books with my kids. But like, they're just in an electronic day and age. Like their books are electronic, their games are electronic. Like Maddie knew all her colors and shapes, before she really needed to. And like I have her TV shows to thank for that.
it's true.
It's just if we just live in a completely different time. And I think that to some level we have to really embrace the fact that this is the world that our kids are growing up in, and we have to trust that they're going to learn to navigate, and not like squeeze them so tight, try to keep them in a generation that no longer exists, because that won't really benefit them.
Of course. And again, going back to modeling behavior, I want to show my daughter so much more than my son right now, just because of their age difference, what a healthy relationship with social media looks like. And so if she's going to eventually live in that culture, well, then let me model that for her so that she can kind of understand how to use it appropriately. And if we're going to be on it, what kind of message do we want to put out there? And for me, again, if I'm going to use social media for business and personal, I want to inspire people. I want to use it for good. And hopefully by modeling that for her, then that's the kind of person she's going to put out into the world as well. So, and again, just showing them a healthy relationship with it. I've recently put timers on everything, which has been really empowering for me, because when my time limit goes off for the day, I'm like, ooh, already? Okay. And then I have the option to ignore it, but most of the time I don't. I respect the time limit and I go do something else. And that has been really powerful for me.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I've actually been thinking a lot about trying something like that. Just because, we get this like innate need to check our notifications where I'm like, it doesn't matter if I check all my DMs like, at 2 o'clock. Just check them all at 2 o'clock instead of feeling like I have to check every hour on the hour. Like that's ridiculous. So I've thought a lot about that, setting some boundaries for myself just to be more productive. I don't have any like emotional issues there, but like I think sometimes it hinders my productivity. So I love that that's worked for you.
Or just beyond productivity, I could work all day long. I could work from sun up to sundown. I love what I do, and there's always more to do. And my wheels are constantly turning. And what I've realized is I'll let go of all of the things that make me an individual outside of work. And so when that time limit goes off, and I'm like, okay, I should go for a walk. Or, let's go down to the park, or I'm going to read a book right now instead of scrolling. Like that time limit kind of allows me to take a step back and really evaluate the day and how I spent it. And now is it time for me to shut it off and focus on myself or focus on time with my kids? And that's been a really big learning curve for me, especially when I'm alone, because I don't have my kids every day. We have like a 50-50 split. And on the days when I'm alone and those timers go off, and it's kind of like, okay, what do I do now? How do I occupy my time? I don't know what to do. And I'm really in this weird space of learning, weird slash beautiful space of learning what makes me again, and what are my hobbies, and what do I enjoy. And when I don't have to fill anybody else's cup, what fills mine? And so that's kind of cool, because there was a time where I would spend the whole day and not even realize it, right? Like I worked all day on my phone, and then I'm laying in bed, and it's been 2 hours of scrolling. And that's embarrassing to admit, but that there was a period where that was a thing. And so I've really respecting those time limits now, and learning what makes me outside of social media has been a really interesting journey.
I love that. And nothing to feel ashamed about, girl. We have all been there. Like yesterday was just one of those days where I was home with Anthony and I was like, I should be like doing housework or something. But no, I just scrolled on TikTok. It's
Yep.
fine. It was
Mhm.
Sunday. Like So we've all been there. I think that I can definitely relate to being kind of a workaholic in the best way, where like work is my fun. And that, like I just mentioned in the beginning of this conversation, like I've had to figure out, how to fill up my fun tank with things other than work because it will totally consume me. And I had the same thoughts of like, what can I do for fun that's not work? Like I need that separation. I need to be able to turn my brain off and like live like a normal human. And I've had to really, really work at that side of myself too, like 100%.
And it's an interesting journey. And whether you're, married or in a committed relationship with kids, or you're like myself and you're now kind of starting this life on your own, um, it's an interesting journey to kind of remember what makes you you. And I'm in a place right now of like, who was I before I got married and who am I now? Because they're two completely different people. And where does that person kind of like mesh and meet in the middle? I'm allowing myself to like go out with girlfriends, which I really haven't done in a long time, and but I still want to get back to racing, and there's just so much of both of myself in a way that I'm trying to kind of like put in the middle and um, figure out who I am now, I guess.
Yes, I love that. That was like one of the first things I worked with my therapist on was like kind of having this identity crisis of like I was an athlete like my entire life and now I'm like this busy mom and I couldn't figure out how to get that piece of my identity back and it is still a struggle. And I don't think I need to be like the kind of athlete that I was, but just finding time to fill up that part of my tank is so important to just who I am as a human. And ever since having kids, it's just been this like roller coaster, right? It's so hard and I really had to get a lot of like a lot of deep help with that and it's still work in progress.
And again, it goes back to modeling behavior for your children and showing them healthy boundaries and what makes you happy. And again, happy parent, happy children, and the kids will be okay. That's one thing I've learned. You know, if my kids are with a babysitter on Monday nights because I do a Reiki class, like they're going to be okay. I don't need to feel guilt about that. Like, um, they that those types of things are as much of an adventure for them, as they are for us. And so I think moms, we have a lot of guilt where that's concerned, but they're going to be okay. And again, modeling that behavior shows them exactly how to embrace life as they get older.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That could be an entire podcast episode.
It
Not that I
really
really
could.
ever want to dive into parenting. Like I always kind of feel like that's just not my domain, but I will say like a lot of things that we do kind of textbook wrong in my family, I think have actually fostered so much like independence and the power of choice in my kids. And maybe that's just me like how I kind of make it make sense in my own head, but like I don't know. I just feel like we have really good independent children and I think a lot of that is because like we've never really been a helicopter. We've always just kind of fostered that freedom of choice environment.
I love that though. I do. And again, what to each their own, what works for one family doesn't work for the other, and it's the dynamic of the household and the personalities of the children, but I definitely support that kind of independent um learning. And yeah, I mean, I don't believe in occupying my children all the time. I can't.
Yeah.
There's only one of me now in this household, and I cannot occupy you all the time.
Oh my gosh, I totally agree. And if sometimes when people come over for the first time, I'm like, okay, they're getting ready to get exposed to the Henson parenting style that is not normal.
Yeah, and just I've had to let go of the idea of perfection. Like this is just chaos. This is what it is, and we take every day, day by day, and sometimes there's more structure than others. Sometimes the laundry's done, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we're eating Chick-fil-A, sometimes I'm cooking. Like it is just kind of a crapshoot every day, but there is a whole lot of love, and we are always laughing, and so I'm very proud of that.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And I know that Ruby just had her birthday and I could not even believe like that she's that grown. Like having done her pictures when she was like maybe 2, I don't know, she
Yeah.
was so teeny tiny.
She not even two, I don't think. I think
Oh
she
my
was like one
gosh.
and a half.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
crazy. And I know we're getting ready to wrap this up, but I remember, there was something you said a few minutes ago about just what you looked like, kind of before marriage, or, what you're like now as a person. And, I was your wedding photographer, and I remember the morning of your wedding, just like seeing you setting everything up and being creative. And you had kind of talked to me a little bit of like, yeah, like I want to do something with fashion or creativity, or I just knew there was something in you that was going to do something with all of that like creative energy. And just to see like you go from, the bride and very much like the mom and the wife to like the badass business owner that you are now, like I don't know, I just totally saw it. I just totally saw that you were going to do something big with that energy, and it's just so cool to see.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And actually, it gave me goosebumps to think. I mean, you did. You were the photographer for our wedding and so many of our family photos throughout the years. And then now we're sitting here, and I'm pouring my heart out to you about navigating divorce. So it's really interesting the relationships that you build and the people that come in our lives, and um, the roles that they play. It's giving me goosebumps.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love it. You've always like inspired me. You've always been like the top of my list when it comes to anything like fashion and just the Teal
Aw.
Eagle boutique. Like, oh my gosh, it's such an amazing store. Like I tell everyone, even people that don't live here, all about it. And then just like seeing this kind of like leader, that you're being and that you're growing into. And that will kind of bring us into like wrapping up as like, what do you feel like you're currently working on or what's coming up next? Like, I know that you're kind of exploring leadership and public speaking and all of that stuff.
Yeah, well, I like I've already kind of said, one of my main priorities right now is just kind of getting back to me and healing myself and giving myself permission. And one of the girls who works for me said it best. I had a lot of guilt about being absent from the store recently, and she looked at me and she said, "Isn't this what you've worked so hard for over the past 5 years? To be able to step away and know that everything will continue to run seamlessly." And I was like, oh, that was really powerful. Yeah, yeah, like that is what I've worked for. So one of the things right now in, April 2021 that I'm prioritizing is just what makes me me, outside of working. And in terms of business, we are revamping the store a little bit, doing the mural. We're hoping to bring back the community events and all of the fun parties and stuff that we had to put on pause because of COVID. I am personally on like a Reiki spiritual journey, so I'm exploring opportunities there. I have big plans for that Airstream that's been sitting there for years. And yeah, there's something to be said about the conversations that I've been having with people lately about life and love and divorce and starting over and starting a business. And in many ways, I would love to incorporate that into something. And I don't know what that is yet. I don't know if it's a book or a podcast or community events. I really haven't pinpointed that, other than I just know that I want to create those conversations with people, and that I am growing more comfortable in leading them, and being okay with being the person who starts them by saying, "Hey, I'm going through this, and this is what I'm currently feeling," and then allowing people to respond to that with, "I'm also going through this," or "This is what I'm going through." And so I don't know where that fits in yet, but it's definitely something that's been on my heart. And I do a lot of spiritual work. I work with a couple different people, and that is one thing that they always tell me is, you're supposed to be telling your story. You're supposed to be telling your story. And so getting more comfortable doing that in whatever platform I decide on.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, and I know you're going to do, such an amazing job of inspiring people and sharing your story in whatever capacity that is, because you just always do everything so um, authentically. I was going to say eloquently, but I think authentically suits you much better.
Yeah, there's nothing eloquent about me, but authentic, yes.
And when your team, when they said that to you about like this is what you've worked so hard for, I thought about something that I recently had a very powerful conversation around, and that was, in being a CEO and a solopreneur, and we have this like hard time passing our business off to other people. And recently, someone said to me, "If your business cannot run without you, it's actually not worth anything, like in the form of being able to sell it one day, or if something happens to us, our children being able to benefit from our business existing. And if we are the only ones that can run the business, it actually does nothing for our family if something happens to us. And that was really, really powerful for me. Like as I'm, growing and growing a team and figuring out what direction I want to go in, I was like, that is why it makes so much sense to grow and scale in a way that, like you said, the business can run seamlessly without you. So I think that is such a good thing, even if it's difficult.
I love that. And it's hard, and you have to know and understand it is hard to pass off your baby to someone else. I mean, I have worked for so long, sun up to sundown, well into like 2, 3 a.m., sometimes alone, doing everything by myself. And so to take a few steps back and release that control has been such an interesting journey. It's very hard, but I am so lucky because I have hands down the best team. I don't even have words for how great they are.
I love that so much. And it definitely shows, like when you walk into the store. I talk a lot about team culture and how, when you walk into a business or a team or an environment and you can just feel like it level up, right? Like you can just feel that something is bigger than yourself, or there's a culture and an energy there. And I think you guys are definitely doing that at Teal Eagle. So
Well, I really appreciate that. That means so much to me.
yeah, and it's hard to do. Like it's really, really hard to do. I've been working inside of a couple businesses, and it is not always, that untouchable, that intangible element is not always there. So
Well, thank you.
yay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I know you've been on here before, but let everyone know where they can find you or the best place to reach out to you if this episode, hit home for them.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I am a big Instagrammer. So my personal Instagram, I'm pretty sure you can put in the notes. It's underscore my name, Tatiana Hill underscore. That's where I share most of my personal journey. I don't share too much of my personal journey on the business page, but if you want to check out the boutique, we are at tealeagleboutique.com. We have our website. That's our website. Our Instagram is at Teal Eagle Boutique. And then we do have a Facebook VIP, which is Shop Teal Eagle on Facebook.
I love that. And I'll link our old episode as well, just in case anybody wants to go way back, because I think we
Oh my
talked about,
goodness.
I think we probably talked about Teal Eagle and how you came up with the name and all that good stuff too.
Oh, it's been complete full circle. What a journey. What a journey.
I know. I'm so proud of you. And I'm just like, I'm so honored to just be your friend and share this space with you. And thank you for, opening up your heart to us. And I know it's going to help so many people.
Well, thank you for having me and allowing me to come on and kind of dip my toes in this hard discussion.
Yes, girl. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right, that is a wrap. I cannot, just say enough about my grateful heart for having this conversation with Tat. And I wanted to remind you guys that everything you need will be in the show notes at elizabethhenson.co/E66. And Tatiana is on Instagram, as she mentioned. It's underscore Tatiana Hill underscore, and also at the Teal Eagle Boutique. But I really want to encourage you guys to follow her on Instagram. Let her know that you listened to this episode, that it meant something to you. I know this was important for her to kind of break her silence and have this conversation. And I am just so grateful that she trusted us to do that. And then I will link Teal Eagle Boutique as well. It is like half my wardrobe is from there. If I ever get a compliment on anything I'm wearing, it's most likely from Teal Eagle. And I just can't wait to see all the things to come. And I know that Tatiana and I are going to continue to collaborate and, build off of this amazing friendship that we have. So I love you, Tat. I'm trying not to get emotional over here. And just thank you. Thank you for being you, for shining the light on other people, and for being the fearless leader that you are.